Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. A big and friendly, warm welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, inspiration, and hope. And for all of our entrepreneurs across the world, 2024 is the year where we help you sell your vision. I'm Jacalyn-Kerbeck, and our show today is the Resume Whisperer. And the star of our show, Mr. JosefStetter, is back again with another fabulous episode. This is a continuation of an episode that we did previously about the power and the value of etiquette and manners in your job search. Joseph has helped over 11,000 people across the globe find employment. He is an expert in this field, not only with resume writing, but with career development. And he is the go-to person you want to contact to help you with your career. Let's welcome him to our program today. Hello, Joseph. How are you?
Excellent. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to see you, and I'm glad that we're back for a second part of this really important topic.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to share my wisdom and ideas and thoughts about it.
Wonderful. You know, I don't know that people would actually think that etiquette and manners and job search would necessarily go together. But as we know, the first impression that we make, the way that we show up, the way we conduct ourselves, that does leave a lasting impression. And for a hiring manager or a future employer, they're thinking, am I going to be able to work with this person? Do I want this person to be representing me as a brand ambassador? What are your thoughts?
Well, again, definitely society is changing. The pandemic has kind of created a model where, and I guess the younger generation, millennials, feel like they're owed and they're angry and they blame everybody else and there's no responsibility. And we're becoming a society where, there's less ownership of what you do and there's less, application of standards of living, like being a gentleman. It's amazing to me how rude people can be. Yes, if are working white collar professional job and you're going to a restaurant, there's no need for you to be rude. There's no need for you to yell and scream at people. In fact, you'll probably get a much better service if you take the time to smile, you take the time to acknowledge the person, that they're a human being, that they're doing a job, and they're doing their best. Yes, there are exceptions where you do have bad service, but we seem to be losing the standard of quality, and now it's become quantity. And we are now in an era of AI boom where we're even sacrificing even more by saying, okay, a machine can do it, and we don't need humans. And I think that is a huge mistake. And yes, there's a lot of benefits to AI. I'm not saying that AI is bad. I'm simply saying that, you don't make decisions because you got a good email. Like, I don't buy anything just because somebody wrote me a well-crafted email. I might be intrigued by it, but I need to speak to the people. I need to understand what they do and what their expertise is before making a decision. And so if we lose this art of etiquette and we lose the the importance of common sense, which is scarier and scarier how far away we're moving from common sense, um, you're going to see a lot of companies struggling because they don't know how to communicate. We now have for the first time ever, 5 generations working together, which all have a different communication style. We have, you know, a demand for more, more, more without a kind of moment to pause and go, wait a minute. There's humans that need to do X, there's humans that need to do Y. And as much as machines can do this, without the humans, we can't. For most businesses, especially in service businesses, especially in this, you cannot exist. So, you know, there is now, I think we mentioned in a few other shows, in the United States, there is currently approximately 6 McDonald's that are completely autonomous. There's not a single human being that works there. And as much as robots can read data because people are self checkout or so forth, what happens when a machine breaks? What happens when people try to customize the order, but machine's not programmed for customized order? Like when I go to burger joints, I love pickles. So I usually ask for a lot of extra pickles. So if you have a machine that's defined to give you 2 pickles and that's it, I'm not satisfied with the burger I got. And this is where etiquette becomes a big, big part of success in business, even though it's not something that's discussed that often.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love that you brought up about the McDonald's as well, because I knew that they were rolling it out and I wasn't aware that they were already up and operating.
Yep, they're up and operating. There's 6 of them. They're right now seem to be very successful because, again, with McDonald's, because everything is preset, like the toppings are the same, the time it takes to make the French fries, the machines are weighted for drinks and everything like that. The human error is not that high, but again, even for me, when McDonald's is not necessarily my first choice, but McDonald's, I'm not a huge fan of onions, but yes, you can choose that on the screen. But when I say extra pickles, if they put an extra 1 piece of pickle and it's like this big, that kind of defeats my purpose of asking for an extra one.
When I go there, I will get the quarter pounder with cheese, no roll, no bagel. I mean, no bagel, no onions, no pickles. So that's my thing. But what I wanted to just talk to you about now is because you alluded to something earlier with the way that the generations are and the way that I feel like we're so casual in so many ways. Before you go to an interview, before you go to meet someone, shouldn't you is it a good idea to take the time to look at how you're showing up as opposed to, well, I've got an interview today. I'm just going to hit the gym and then I'll just, I don't know, put on whatever and go there. Because I see people even when they're coming here to do a podcast or a broadcast, I'm thinking, okay, no judgment, but you're not going on today because it's a reflection of our brand. What do you think?
I think it really depends on the type of work and the industry you're in. If someone's a graphic designer, people if you're showing up in a what we'll label as a creative outfit, it goes part and parcel because they want creativity from you. So if you're expressing it yourself, there is, I think in the previous episode or other episodes I've mentioned, like for example, it has become very commonplace that you have tattoos, and some tattoos like the semicolon, I know represent people that have had suicidal thoughts or ideation, and it's kind of I overcame and I support, and if you see it, I'm a voice for you. And so nobody takes offense to that. So even if and a lot of people will put it behind their ear here, and because it's small and it's subtle, it's not a big deal. But if you kind of put it on half your face, kind of like Mike Tyson did, might not give the best impression as a whole. So I think that, there is a level where in some companies, casual is the norm, but when you go to an interview, you should at least, at the bare minimum, wear a dress shirt. Not necessarily jacket, not necessarily tie, but at the bare minimum, dress shirt and dress pants, not kind of rip clothes. If you're going into retail, most retails, the high teenagers don't really have expectations anymore of kids dressing up. And because of pandemic, where a lot of the workforce now, I think that in North America, about 30 to 40% of the workforce is now completely hybrid, or even currently remote. Again, you can get away with dressing less if you're on a Zoom call, as long as your, let's say, top half looks somewhat normal. But again, part and parcel, like, if, I always give this analogy because as much as people say, they're welcoming of everybody, we do judge right away. If I'm going to a doctor and my doctor has a rainbow mohawk and 17 earrings here, I might have some questions, right? If I need a painter and I call two people and one shows up in a suit and tie, looks like he's never touched paint in his life, and one shows up in paint overalls, by default, I'm going to trust the person in paint overalls because, at least by first impression, they did the job that they're coming to pitch me. So there is a level where it all, if I go to an account, like, again, if my accountant is working from home and I show up at their home and they're in slacks and whatever tracksuit, be comfortable. I don't care. But if I'm going to a professional office and you're in slack in a jumpsuit and it's not casual Fridays or it's not a themed fun day at work as a part of corporate culture, do I necessarily trust an accountant that's too lazy to get dressed? And this is where a lot of people are very lazy with their LinkedIn profile. A lot of people are very generic and lazy on their resume. So yes, ChatGPT can type nicely formatted resume. But it doesn't necessarily tell your story correctly, but it at least puts things nicer than most people do in a resume. So I think it's really relative to the type of job, right? Like, I know that you work out a lot and now you're a spin instructor, correct? So spin instructor, I wouldn't expect you in a suit and tie.
That is a great point. Now, what I want to say about that, I'm a spin instructor and also yoga instructor. So I was in workout clothes before. Now, if I showed up in the workout clothes, I don't think that would really be very appropriate for what it is I'm doing here. I don't think I'd be showing you respect and conducting myself in a way that is conducive to the brand. Now, if I'm going to teach spin class and I show up like this, then it's like, are you here to spin or what are you here to do?
Right, and that's why I said I think there's a fine line where, if you watch the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith was painting his apartment and his car got towed because he had too many parking tickets, and he ended up in jail. And he had the interview, and he showed up in kind of, pardon my expression, wife beater kind of undershirt and kind of track pants, and they're like, and he took ownership, and he's like, look, I was racking my brain for the past 20 minutes trying to figure out what I'm going to say. The truth of the matter is, I was painting my apartment, my car got towed, and I didn't have a chance to change because I was at the police station trying to get my car back, kind of thing. And they kind of laughed at it, and then I think the executive goes to the HR person that recommended Will Smith, does he usually dress like this? And the HR man said, no, every time I've seen him, he's been in a suit and tie. He's always professional. So again, if life happens, take ownership and just acknowledge it. If let's say you did a spin class before here and there was a serious accident and you got to your house a minute before our show or 2 minutes before our show, nothing wrong with saying, listen, I apologize for having yoga attire today, but there was an accident and I was delayed. And I don't think anybody in your audience would judge you for the appearance kind of thing. And so I think it's relative to the circumstances, the job, the level that you're working at. Obviously the higher your level, the more professional you need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, great points that you made there. One thing that I don't believe we've discussed in terms of etiquette and manners is I remember way back in the day, because I haven't had that many jobs, but if I would go for an interview, I would need to send a thank you note. And it used
Mhm.
to be a handwritten thank you note. What is the appropriate thing to do now? Is it you just send off an email, you send flowers, you say, like, what do you do?
So again, me personally, I encourage people to be outside the norm and be creative. So yes, you can do a handwritten. It's still a beautiful gesture kind of thing. There's free cards like 1, 2, 3 cards or whatever that you can send a card with sounds and music. But again, part of the thank you card is to highlight the conversation, the results that you discussed that you can produce for them to remind them how great you are. But again, similar to applying for a job, in kind of some of the stories that I've like you can send food like fortune cookies and have you know it was an honor, great pleasure to meet you. Imagine how great the fortune this company would be if you hire me. And like play on words in terms of that. You can send a singing telegram. You can send flowers or chocolate. It really depends on your budget. Now, because most of the time you walk through reception to go to wherever you're being interviewed, I would bring go to a pharmacy, a grocery store, buy like a pot of gold or Ferrero Rocher chocolates, and then put the thank you card. And as you're leaving, give it to the reception. Say, "Can you please give this to whoever interviewed you?" Because then they're also getting the thank you before same day, same kind of there, which leaves an even stronger and better impression for them, right? So, um, or on a like I had a candidate that was asked to come in for a second or third interview at 10 a.m. and they told him that this will be like a group interview with 4 or 5 people. So I told him go buy, a box of, I assume Dunkin' Donuts has the mini donuts. In Canada, they're called Timbits. They're smaller circle donut, like not the full size donut, and just buy a box of 40 of them for $8 or whatever it is, and offer that because they'll offer you coffee in the office, but now you're giving them kind of a snack for the interview, kind of thing, and it definitely made an impression of building an into rapport with everybody on the team because you're like, oh, okay, food is kind of in between interview questions, especially since there was a group of them, so they could eat when other people were asking the questions, kind of thing.
Thank you, Joseph. And in terms of follow up, if you feel your interview didn't go well, so I go for an interview and I call you afterwards and I say, wow, I just think that one bombed. I just did so horribly. Is it appropriate? Does it make sense to reach out to that person with whom you met? Maybe make a phone call or send something, say, hey, I know I bombed that interview. Can you give me another chance? Or just wait and see what the results are?
So I'm going to answer it this way. We tend to be our hardest critic. And so a lot of people that use the word suffer from perfectionism always undervalue how good they are or the contributions or the work or the interview itself and feel that they did horribly. If you follow my system, you cannot bomb an interview. It's really a matter of do they like you or not. There's no I bombed because there's a system, there's a structure, there's psychology, and I've designed a system that regardless of your communication style, my system works whether you do it left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top, middle left, right, right middle left. It doesn't really matter because the fundamentals of how the answer should happen will work out regardless of how you do it. And so I kind of give you the bone, you put on the spices, you put on the meat, and it doesn't really matter which meat you put on because it will all come out the same. And so there's a level where acknowledging that you're harsh on yourself could actually work in your interest because you're setting higher standards for yourself from the get-go and you're showing that. But again, keep in mind that unless you're applying somewhere extremely remotely, chances are there's 2 or 3 other candidates, and if they're and the executives might only book 1 interview per day. So waiting 2-3 days before follow-up is also giving them time to process information. But again, usually when I follow up, I kind of focus on here's the 2 or 3 key things that we talked about in terms of the contributions I can make and the ROI the company is going to get if they give me a chance to prove myself with them. At which point, again, the rest of the conversation, there's always going to be, oh, I could have said this or I could have added that. But from my experiences, what you might think is small and insignificant could be the most important thing to the company that's interviewing you. So there's a relative, you might not, or vice versa, kind of thing. So it's not a good or bad. It's not a right or wrong. It just is.
Do you believe that it's truly fate that we end up where we're supposed to be? So if an interview doesn't go well, you weren't supposed to get that job? Or do you think it really has to do with the fact that it's just not a good match, not a good marriage?
Look, I'm a strong believer in faith and that everything happens for a reason. And a lot of times when we're going through hardships, our question to whoever we believe in is why. Like in my case, God, why me, why now? And it's hard for us in the moment to understand it. But I can say to you that if it wasn't for my experiences, I probably would have never met my wife. I wouldn't have had the 2 beautiful kids that I have right now. And so, yeah, it hurts when things happen. Like in the last 6-7 months, I lost $170,000 in billables from recruiting because of things that made me go, did I just enter the twilight zone that people are rejecting like an increase in salary of half their salary? So somebody that's making 100 to go to 150,000 because the job title was incorrect or because they had to come into the office once a week. And I'm going, so you're making 120 and my client offered you 180 to come into the office once a week, and that was too much of a stress for you, that was too much of a bother, and you went through 4 interviews, you could not mention this in the first, second, or third interview. You had to wait till the offer was made to you, which makes me look like an idiot and makes the company frustrated that they've wasted so much time and energy because you can't fathom coming into the office once a week for a $60,000 raise. So there's a level where, again, or it's the wrong job title. Even if the company's put in writing that they want to train you and groom you into the job title that you wanted, because you don't know the industry and they've put it in writing in your contract, things like that. To me, like everybody has their own priorities, everybody has their own values, but it kind of, I sat there, went, what the, and then I realized, okay, you know what? I didn't ask this question and I haven't asked that. So that was a gap. And so it allowed me to reflect and bring back potentially things that made me successful before to create even better conversations. And might not be the money that necessarily could have paid some bills and so forth, but perhaps some of those conversations has led to me going, here's what I want to do. And now there's some very interesting kind of lines that I've put out there in terms of partnerships and joint ventures and working together that could become a lot more lucrative than the money I lost. You also have to understand that a candidate coming to a job is kind of like a marriage. There needs to be not only the technical background, but also a soft skills or character skills match and a cultural match. Just so using kind of differences in, let's say, someone who comes from China um, is taught as part of their culture to be very respectful and very quiet and, polite and kind of do their job as they're told. Whereas in someone that, let's say, has a Middle Eastern background is very loud, very in your face, very direct. And again, just because they're loud doesn't mean you're in trouble. It's just the communication style. And there's a difference between the two. And so part of what I do is bridge that gap so that people that are applying from different cultures can also understand this is what you're going to get and this is the experience you're going to have. And so if that is preempted, I'll use that word, it's not a problem because people know what they're dealing with or what they're getting. And so I think we are now noticing that, there are such big gaps in communication and such big conversations that, kids are rude to their parents, kids are rude to their teachers, kids have a I don't care attitude. And so they're going to university and going, you owe me, I expect this, and how dare you give me work? And then they go into the workforce and are wondering why they're having a hard time getting a job or keeping a job.
Excellent points that you made there. I want to go back to something that you said and also tie it to etiquette and manners and maybe a foreshadowing of what's to come. So I believe that every negotiation, both parties should walk away feeling like they were heard. And sometimes that means compromise. And so my question for you is, I've also heard people who feel that negotiations, you keep things back. You wait until you've come to an agreement and then you throw that curveball. So like what you just said about the person who didn't want to work from home or wouldn't come into the office that one day. I know of many people who will get into a negotiation and they allegedly have all the cards on the table, but then they don't. And then after they have a verbal agreement, when it comes to maybe putting something in a document or a contract, there are things in there that were not discussed. So how would you direct someone, a client of yours, if they were going for an interview and they have a whole long list of things that they really feel that they need, from a gym membership to whatever it might be, but they don't want to bring it all out because they're concerned they might not get the job or the offer, so they'll wait till they get it and then bring the things up?
So again, I'm a huge believer in transparency and integrity. So before you get to that level, especially if there's multiple interviews, let's say in a second or third interview, you can say, listen, clearly we're getting to the stage where we're both liking each other. I'm considering working here and you're considering hiring me. Can you give me an idea of the overall package? Is there benefits, the salary range? Are there any perks? And if you ask, are there any perks? You've opened the door for them to say, we do this, this, and this, at which point you can ask, would you consider something like this? So again, depending on what you're asking for, using something as a gym membership, most gym memberships are $50 to $150 a month. At the end of the day, even at the $150 a month, we're talking about $2,000 extra. $2,000 shouldn't break a company's bank. And if that $2,000 is going to create somebody who's more excited to work for my company because they're going to be more productive because they know their gym membership's getting paid, why waste my time and try to trick me? Let me know. I'll make you happy, produce 10x results I'm paying you, and I'm ecstatic, for example. Right? So if I'm giving you a salary of $200,000 and a $2,000 gym membership is going to make you work harder for me so that you can bring me as a salesperson or as a marketer $2 million plus, I'll spend the $2,000 instantly. I don't even need to think about it. For me, it's so minute. So part of what I'm doing right now with companies is going, when was the last time you checked what the intrinsic values of your employees are? When did you ask them about a vacation that they want to go on? Right? So you can give them a bonus and pay for the vacation and think about the reward. So um, I I use this example because I think this is a common example that people don't understand the value of this. If somebody has an executive assistant or personal assistant, as much as you can give them a few $1,000 bonus, which can help pay some bills and definitely help, instead of that bonus, pay that person a full day of salary and send them to pamper themselves in the spa. For most executive assistants, personal assistants, it is a luxury. And because a massage can cost $150 and doing your, manicure and pedicure and exfoliating your skin and whatever other services kind of there, if you pay, a $500 go pamper yourself at the spa, and I'm still paying your salary for that, I guarantee you that executive assistant or personal assistant is actually going to be more productive, because where they're going to come back, let's say on a Monday, so refreshed and so excited that they got to pamper themselves, that yes, the bonus is like, oh yeah, it's nice, but it's not personal. And it's not kind of, wow, you really appreciate me. You gave me the opportunity to relax. And I guarantee that if you pamper the person, they'll want to do more for you. They'll be more excited because they'll now go, okay, I'm going to work 3 months super hard so I can go to the spa again.
Yeah, excellent point. We've got time for one more question, which I have for you, which is along the lines of transparency. And the first thing that comes up for me is a dating situation, but I'm going to parlay it into the business world. So I remember way back when I was interested in meeting someone, my father would say, don't tell them everything up front. Don't tell them you have ulcerative colitis. See if they like you. And yet I wanted to just say, hey, guess what? I have ulcerative colitis. And if they were turned off, okay, goodbye, good riddance. I don't have to deal with you. So if you have a medical condition, do you bring it up? I know there's all kinds of laws that protect people.
I wouldn't bring it up in the first interview, right? I would bring it up in the second or third interview from a perspective of, this is not an issue and I know how to deal with it, but I also want you to understand, if you don't see me at my chair, why that is. I don't think that's a problem. And again, there's tact and etiquette in terms of bringing it up. If you bring, like, I have a medical condition, most companies, again, if they like you, won't care about the medical conditions, that they'll support you for it. But again, everything is within reason. There's, like, I would say something like that you can bring up after you get hired, because they don't need to know. But if, let's say, you're applying for a job and you've booked a vacation, right, tell them that during the interview, so that they also know they've made the decision to hire you because you're the best person, but they're not getting a surprise that a month into the job you're going on vacation. They knew that going in, and therefore it's not a red flag that you knew that you had this vacation but you didn't tell us. I think medical conditions, it also varies from medical to medical, because at least in North America, there's a standard of, employment equity and giving those with disabilities, whether medical or physical, the same opportunity to succeed and be part of the company. So, if you need a special desk, if you need a special chair, those are things that the sooner you let them know, the sooner they can make arrangements for it. The ulcer colitis, again, if it's something that you're not, you go to the bathroom 2-3 times a day, but it's not every 10-15 minutes, not that big of a deal, kind of thing. I think it's relative to the extent, and again, given that in many applications it asks you up front, do you have any medical conditions? Because again, companies that want to show that they're equitable want to have a certain percentage of the company that are designated or recognized in whatever capacity that looks like.
Great answers. Thank you. I think it comes down to, on both sides, trust. So if you are showing your whole hand, here it is, whatever, you're hiding your cards, it's going to be perceived differently. So I think it's also timing, like what you just mentioned, that it's not on the first interview, it's on the second interview. So
but you
Joseph,
can ask at the first interview, does this company do a one interview or two interview? If it's a one interview process, then you need to tell in the one interview. But if it's multiple interviews, you don't need to say it right away. Yes, honesty is important, but your first interview is a feeling of, are you able to do the job? The second and third interview, you're getting into nitty gritties in more specifics.
perfect. We are running out of time. Who is your best client and who would you like to contact you? We have your contact information here. People can just scan.
Yeah, so I'm looking for people that, are frustrated at their job, feel that they've been passed on for promotions or for raises, people that know they can do more or have gifts in them but haven't been recognized yet. I predominantly work with white collar professionals because I want to highlight how great.
Joseph, are you with us? Well, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it. It's been wonderful having you here, and we'll look forward to having you back again for our next show next week. Stay tuned, and we thank you for subscribing to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio. Bye for now.